Let's talk about Calibrachoa, otherwise known as million bells. In the proven winners family, they call them super bells, and they are absolutely beautiful and an excellent addition to anyone's garden if you're looking for lots of color and a great amount of vigor that will last all season long, that is also extremely easy to take care of with just a little bit of maintenance. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you around some of the varieties that we have in our yard and give you some ideas about some combinations that you might be able to use, and we hope that you enjoy what we have in store for you. Stick around. So Calibrachoa really is one of my favorite annuals to use in containers, whether it's a container like this or a hanging basket. They seem to do the best for me in those two situations. And the colors that are available are just absolutely stunning. We have the single varieties like we have here, and they also come in double varieties, which give them a little bit of a rosette look, and I am really impressed with some of those as well. We'll talk about various ones that we've tried here in the past. But the first thing that we need to understand is that they are very well suited for containers because of their need for well-draining soil. They don't like to have wet feet, and they do like to somewhat dry out in between waterings. So really, containers are absolutely the perfect situation for these plants to thrive. My best results have come from my hanging baskets, and I think here in Southern California in zone 10B, with our weather, it really is perfect because I have them on drip irrigation and the oxygen goes through the cocoa liners of those hanging baskets. And so let's talk about some of the varieties that are available and the ones that are in this pot right here. This is a pot that my son actually just planted up recently. He's going to give this away as a gift, but what he used was really cool varieties, and I like how he paired these two together. This one right here is called Lemon Slice, and you can see that variegated bloom with the beautiful bright yellow and then the white striping. So nice. It gives you a kind of a different texture there. And then also this Coral Sun, which was new for in the Proven Winners line about three years ago, I believe. And it also has that really pretty yellow color and then that coral orange on the outside. And I think this is going to be really nice. These two colors together are going to be beautiful, and when they cascade down, it's going to look unbelievable. You could put this pot up on a pedestal and let it trail down. I've had super bells trail at least 3.5 to almost 4 feet long before. So, and it is so stunning when that happens. But yes, all of the super bells will be of trailing habit, and you can expect that wherever you plant them. This variety right here is extremely beautiful. It's called Tropical Sunrise. I found this a couple weeks ago, and it's a single variety, but it has this really nice yellow. It's striped just a little bit, and then you have that beautiful coral color against that really nice, rich, deep foliage. Another great one, and this is extremely vigorous. I wasn't quite ready to plant these, and so I trimmed it up just a little bit, and by trimming it around the sides one time, it's stimulating growth from the center. And so, like I said before, they grow extremely hardy, and that's what's happening here. We're going to plant these in just a moment. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with those. But I really do like the double varieties. This double smitten pink is so pretty, and this is actually a new variety from Proven Winners this year, and there's many different double varieties that are available. I'm probably going to plant this in a single planting. It's going to be beautiful, completely cascading, and then completely being eventually covered with those beautiful light pink with the dark pink throat, and then that secondary bloom inside, giving it a little of that, like I said before, that rosette look. So pretty. Now, these annuals do really well with other annuals, and I've paired them with Nemesia before, and they do really well. And one of the plants that I have right now is a good example of that. Okay, so the first combination that I want to talk about is one that I had purchased at Lowe's in a regular container on clearance that I popped into a hanging basket. It was really beautiful. It had two different types of super bells, and it had super bells white and super bells Great Punch, in addition to the beautiful sparkling amethyst Verbena, and it did beautiful. And here recently I had cut that back because it got a little bit scraggly into the fall, and my main objective there was if it didn't do well with the severe trim back that I was giving it, that I would just repot that plant with something new. I mean, it would be fine for sure, but it has come back beautifully. I cannot believe how beautiful it looks, and we're still in early spring. I mean, those beautiful super bells are cascading down the sides already, along with the Verbena sparkling amethyst towering over the top, and that deep, rich, beautiful grape color. The purple is absolutely beautiful, and I think it's going to do just fine for the rest of the season, and we might get a whole nother season out of it. So I'm very excited about that. But those two purple colors together, the deep, rich purple with the lavenders and the whites that are in the sparkling amethyst verbena, do extremely well together. Those two pair beautifully, and that's something that you could do. You could choose a different color super bells and pair that with a trailing verbena, similar to the sparkling amethyst, in whatever color palette you choose in your garden. But those two together are a definite recommend as far as I'm concerned. So that was beautiful. But here recently I planted up a variety that I had never seen before. I found it at a local nursery, and that is Super Bells Honeyberry, and I paired that with the beautiful yellow lemon Nemesia, and it has turned out so great. We're just starting to cascade over the side. You have that really nice soft pink with the yellow throat, giving it a very cheerful look, and then of course that brilliant Nemesia that is set in the center as kind of a filler. Looks really beautiful. It's not technically a thriller, but it will fill in the top there as the super bells cascade over the side, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Definitely spring-esque for sure. And that replaced a container that I've had in that spot for like 4 seasons. I had Super Bells Double Twilight in that spot, and it was also beautiful there, but it eventually fizzled out. Here, of course, in Southern California in zone 10B, these super bells can be treated as perennials for us. And whether you're in a place where they're perennial or you're in a place where they're annual, it is still absolutely worth it because of the absolute sheer volume of blooms that you get and the eye-catching color that they always provide. So that is going to be beautiful, and I'll make sure to give you updates with that. But the Nemesia and the super bells are doing really, really nicely together. Then I have another basket full of super bells double yellow that I had planted a couple of years ago. I only planted 2 of these, and that thing last season in my summer garden tour was over 3.5 feet long. It was beautiful, and it was cascading in a way that was definitely eye-catching. I mean, my neighbors were saying, "What is that variety that you have in there?" And I was always glad to share with them because that thing was a winner for sure. And I was originally thinking that I was going to lose that plant because we had a windstorm and the hanging basket actually fell and broke off some of the branches. So I just took that opportunity, because it was kind of getting scraggly anyway, to cut it all the way back above the rim of the container, which I never really usually trim it back that severely. And I put it into another place in my yard in the sun and gave it some water soluble fertilizer, just kept it happy in that spot, and lo and behold, it started to sprout out. And then a couple of weeks ago, right around St. Patrick's Day, it looked like, honestly, our little pot of gold out in the yard. And I eventually hung it back up into its spot, and it is doing beautifully right there. And just that complete yellow look. It's not paired with anything else. It's kind of that solid yellow is, I think, going to be a beautiful color there in contrast to what I have underplanted by the window. A lot of people have different opinions on yellow. Some people don't like putting yellow because it's too bright, but for me, it really does create a contrast to any other color that you might want to add. And in this case, it does just that in that spot. And then the last hanging basket that I want to talk about is actually a recipe that I got off of Proven Winners website last year. It has 3 different varieties, and that it has as the centerpiece sparkling amethyst, and then it also has the beautiful mini vista indigo, and then the super bells that is also planted in there is the double amber. I also cut this one way back after it got scraggly in the fall, and again, I was just taking a chance to see what would happen if I did cut it back all the way up to the rim, and it is mostly beautiful green, and one of the first things to bloom is that double amber, and it is so pretty, especially when all of the other purples are in bloom. And I'm really excited to get another year out of that container, but I would definitely recommend that combination. And also, if you're looking for combinations, the Proven Winners website is great for inspiration, and they have a lot of different varieties using many different types of super bells. Now, as for the growth habit for these beautiful plants, I've seen them mound about 6 to 7 inches. I really haven't had them mound any higher than that. And the trailing habit is really the show-stopping attribute of these plants. So that's something you might want to consider if you are pairing them with something else, because they do kind of take over. Although when I plant them with petunias, they aren't as vigorous as most of the varieties of petunias, and sometimes they can get swallowed up a little bit, peeking out here and there. But if that's a look that you're looking for, then absolutely use that. I tend to appreciate a little bit more of a presence when I'm planting my super bells. That's why very often I plant them with other super bell varieties, and it seems to work out just fine. The Nemesia is fine, and that will just kind of like intermingle in between, never taking over what is happening as they cascade. And so that might be something, and Nemesia is a fantastic annual that if you haven't tried, you may want to try it. So the light conditions that these require, most of the time you'll read on the label that they are full sun. I have had absolutely no problem with them in part sun situations where they recede 4.5 hours. Anything less than that is really going to stunt the bloom production. So if you want those beautiful blooms, you're going to have to make sure that they are in a sunny spot, or at least one that is sunny for 4+ hours. So now that you know how beautiful all of these varieties can be, let's talk about how to pick the right soil and how to pick the right plants for your situation. And I'm going to plant up this beautiful double smitten right now. Let me just get this cleared off and we'll get planting. Okay, so before we get started, you want to make sure that if you are shopping for plants, you shop for ones that are very, very healthy, just like this one. You can see the branching is nice and tight. That means you're going to have extremely healthy branching. And also you can notice those blooms, they're just completely covered. Now this container right here, I purchased, you wouldn't believe it, but I purchased it from the Dollar Tree, and it looks like terracotta, but it's plastic. So $1.25 for this container was a steal. And I love the size of this container because these Calibrachoa don't really have an extensive root system. It's pretty much a good size pot for at least the first season. If I'm going to treat these as perennials, I may want to pop them out into a bigger container, as they will throughout the season fill the pot, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like a purple fountain grass or something like that that has extensive root system. So it's going to be fine for at least this first season. So I'm going to use this, and I love the size of this container, not only because it looks like an actual terracotta pot, but also because it fits really well in this plant stand that I have right here. And I've had plants and Calibrachoa planted in these containers before, and eventually they will just completely cover and drape way down. It's going to be really pretty, especially when you're trying to get some height into your space. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is take out this insert right here. This is something that they put in here so that the holes don't get clogged, and then I'll put this back in there eventually. But I want to make sure that I drill those holes. It has a little bit of water, so I want to make sure I empty that out. And it has spaces here where it tells you to drill. You could use a screwdriver or something like that and really push that through, but I'm going to use the drill instead. So perfect. You always want to make sure that you have at least 3 holes because, like I said before, these plants enjoy well-draining soil, so that's a must. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out and pop this back in. So I have some space there at the bottom for it to make sure that it does drain, it doesn't get clogged. And then the soil that I use is something that I've been using for a very long time, which is this moisture control soil from Miracle-Gro. And you can use any kind of soil that you like to use. I really like this one because it keeps the moisture when needed, but it doesn't allow it to get too bogged down with moisture. I know that sounds really crazy, but it kind of keeps it just right, especially in these smaller containers. I've seen great results with this brand. So we're going to add a little bit to the bottom. And then I'm going to add a little bit of an amendment to this That soil is amended a little bit, but what I want to do is add a little bit of slow release fertilizer, and this is heat activated so that in the summertime when these plants are really needing a little bit of extra nutrients, it will release it into the soil and it'll be taken up by the plant. Then next, I'm going to add a little bit of this plant tone, which is also a slow release fertilizer that will not burn the plant at all. And I want to give it as much chance for nutrients as possible, just a little bit, because it is a small container. And I know that it seems like it might be a little bit of overkill, and I say this all the time. These plants are heavy feeders, so if we don't give them the nutrients that they need, then we're not going to have the bloom production that we want to see. All right, now since this is a small container, it's going to be really a lot easier for me to use the pop-in method where I create a well with this pot, fill in the soil, press it down, and then just pop this out and put it in here, and it's going to be easy as that. And then I'll add more soil to really take it up to give me at least a 1-inch lip on the top so that when I'm watering it, or if I need to deep soak this, then I'll have somewhere for the water to go and it won't just spill over the side and the soil will fall out. So that's something to consider as well. I'll just press that in so I can see that pot right there in the center. You can see that the pot is right there, and I'll press in around the sides so that it will stay put once I pull this pot out, just like that. Now eventually I'm going to have this hooked up to a drip irrigation line with just like a small little emitter that every time my plants are here on the wall or my hanging baskets are being watered, this will be watered too. And that's really important, especially when it gets hot in the summertime and the plants tend to dry out a lot more. I mean, these plants, like I said, they like to dry out, but they don't like to be bone dry, especially in the heat. And when you add in humidity to that, it can really zap them. So they do need to have somewhat consistent moisture, but not bogged down moisture. All right, so I think that's pretty much it right there. So I'm going to pop that out. And then by popping that out, I have that well right there in the center. You can kind of see it. I'm going to take this out, remove that tag. That should be able to just pop right in. And you can tell that that's not even root bound at all. Like I said before, these tend to not have extremely vigorous roots. And this has probably just been planted here in January in the greenhouse in Michigan where it came from. But it eventually will fill out its root system and then fill out this pot. And then if I need to, I can bump it up to another container. But this is absolutely perfect for now. So I'm going to pop that in just like that. And look at that. Just like that, we have a perfectly planted, double smitten Super Bells ready for its new spot right here on this plant stand. Now, you can envision it. That is going to look so beautiful in about 2 months, where it's going to completely cover the top and cascade down. And then through the whole season, in probably August, September, we're going to see it really cascading. I'll make sure to give you a definite update on how that looks. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to underplant these boxwoods that are behind me right here with this beautiful tropical sunrise. I have 4 of them, so I'm going to take a moment and kind of make space in the front. I had this filled with a beautiful Super Bells double yellow and also double twilight a number of years ago when I upgraded these containers. And so that was a number of years ago, and they eventually fizzled out. So I'm going to put some underplanting in there, and I think this color is going to be really, really pretty. There are so many people that would rather not underplant their boxwood hedges, but I really do think it creates a beautiful look and it softens the space. So that's what we're going to do next. I just got to get my things and we're going to plant them up. So that's pretty much it. And you can tell I absolutely love using Superbells or Calibrachoa in my containers. There are a few things that you must consider while planting these, which is, of course, number one, the drainage, but also they can be prone to pests every once in a while. If you're in an area where you have budworms, that can easily be managed by spraying them with a little bit of BT on a weekly basis to prevent budworms from developing. They won't kill your plants, but they will definitely annihilate all the blooms and you'll be left with just green foliage. So you want to make sure that you do that if you are in an area that has budworms. Here where we are, we have to preventively spray for those, but that really is the most of the pests that I have seen. Every once in a while I hear people say that they have aphids, and you can manage those very simply by using Captain Jack's or another benign organic spray, and that usually will take care of them. Or if you release predatory bugs into your garden, that can also take care of those issues. One thing that we've noticed around here is very often we get thrips, and they're a little bit more difficult to take care of. And I think what I'm going to try to do this year is to introduce some of those predatory bugs so that I can make sure that I have these beautiful blooms all year long, and I'll keep you updated on that. But Superbells, Million Bells, Calibrachoa, absolutely fantastic and will look terrific throughout the spring, summer, and into the fall. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and we thank you so much for being here today. And you may want to give Superbells a try. And if you have tried them before, comment below. I'd love to hear your experience with them as we share what we have going on in our garden throughout the season. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.